My dad won't take tickets for games. My dad only buys tickets and buys gear. He won't let me give him any of my old gear because he knows that's he always says, like, league isn't going to be grown by people handing out free tickets. You got to buy tickets.
This is MLR Mic Check, and the goal here is to have a really good time, talk some shop, and learn a little more about you. I'm Dani Wexelman with Ryan Matyas. There's no reason to not hit this thing pedal to the metal. So 2020, the Legion are coming off a championship run in 2019. You go 5-0 to start the season. You're the only undefeated team in the league before the shutdown. So I know there's things we could talk about that focus on what was so hard about that, but I want to know from your perspective, what are some of the positives that you take away from starting your season that way, from carrying the momentum from 2019, and what do you take away from all of that?
There's no secret going 5-0. Obviously, we got a few things right, and we were able to still get some wins by, there are definitely some things we could have corrected, but putting together 5 wins, being the only team to be able to do that is a massive confidence booster, especially for the players who are coming into this 2021 season. And again, going into that 2020 season, the core group that we were able to retain, the kind of bad taste that was left in our mouth from that 2019 season, a lot of guys went home and took a good hard look at themselves and thought, can I do this better, or can I, how can I be a better rugby player? What can I change? And that's what we brought into that 2020 season. And we know that it's not the same team coming into 2021. A lot of things have changed. A lot of guys have had time off. But getting back to some of the things that made us successful in that 2020 season is something that we're going to be leaning on heavily.
You mentioned the retention, almost 80%. You're getting guys back, and then you're also making some new additions to the team as well. So the strength is only building. Paint me a picture of what off-season and preseason has looked like with getting your guys back and getting some new faces.
It's been a very unconventional preseason, to say the least. Been very short. Guys coming in, guys quarantining, obviously COVID tests, following CDC guidelines, mask, temperature checks, all that stuff, sanitizing. But it's been a short run-up. We haven't had the usual, 6-week or sometimes even 2-month preseason that we've had in the past. So the exciting part is through kind of all of the adversities, all the players know what we're up against as far as the clock. So there's no wasting time as far as getting to know each other. No one's beating around the bush. No one's waiting for someone else to come up and introduce themselves to them. Guys are getting in there, getting after it, going for coffees and cooking food together and playing cards as much as we can, outside. But guys are excited. They want to get back to playing rugby.
You mentioned Vegas. We're going to get to Vegas in a second. There's a lot to talk about there. I know you're smiling, but first I want to know who's a guy on your team, a newer guy that I need to go right when we're done and Google his name and learn everything about him.
South Africa and Chris Robshaw. Both of them very successful athletes for their country. Chris Robshaw for England, South Africa for South Africa. Both have been fantastic additions to the squad, not only on the field but off the field. They're what we call in rugby the great club men. They interact well with the boys off the field. They want to know, what is it like to be a part of this league, to be a part of this team, to be a part of this program, and they're doing everything they can to get assimilated into the already existing group. So it's always really exciting for me being here since year one. When new guys come in, they want to get involved and become a part of the program, not just be their own player. They want to be a part of Legion and what we're doing.
Now we get to talk about Vegas for a second. I was lucky. I started last season in Vegas for back-to-back opening weekends. And there's something about being there, playing games, even though this isn't your home, you're making it a residency for the season. There are worse places to have to move your home from, but what's the vibe and how and maybe give you guys an edge against other teams?
I'm excited because there is a large sports fan market here. You see a lot of support for the Vegas Knights. And Vegas, the Las Vegas Sevens has been here for, just recently left and went to LA last year, but it's been here for a while. So people know what rugby is. And people, I think, are excited to come out and support us. I'm sure there will be a small group of a cohort coming out from San Diego to support us. But so far we've been welcomed with pretty open arms here in Vegas. We're excited again just to be able to play. I know, fortunately, it wouldn't have worked out for us to stay in San Diego, but I think this was the next best option. The weather here has been great. No snow, so not mad about that at all.
Let's rewind to 12-year-old Ryan playing in your very first rugby match with a 19U team, by the way. That's the Tucson Barbarians. Do I have that right?
You have that fantastically correct. Thank you very much.
So what is going through 12-year-old Ryan's mind as you are stretching, getting ready, warming up? Like, walk me through it.
Obviously pretty nervous. At that point in my life, I'd played a lot of touch rugby, but I'd only seen my dad play. And at the time, my 3 older brothers were on the field as well. So I had some bodyguards. But basically, just so excited to finally, I'd been playing football and soccer and done swim team and tennis and track. But I've always just been chomping at the bit to play rugby. So my dad said that when I got onto the field, because I was a reserve, that I was not allowed to run the ball, and that I was only allowed to pass. Of course, I had to throw a dummy a couple minutes in and try and run it.
If you could go back and give your 12-year-old self some advice now, looking back, what would you say?
Gosh, that's a good question. Man, learn to kick off my left foot.
Amazing advice. That's incredible advice. I think you turned out okay, though, regardless of that advice.
It turned out all right, but yeah, it'd be nice to kick off my left foot.
4th year for you playing for San Diego, 4th year of Major League Rugby, and there was the very first ever MLR collegiate draft this past summer. A huge deal. This is game changing for the league, and more importantly for American-born players who are attending college here in the United States to have a direct pipeline to play for a pro sports league, rugby, here in the United States. So for you, knowing all this, seeing what the league is trying to do, what encourages you the most about the longevity and the legitimacy of Major League Rugby?
When Major League Rugby announced that they were going to be doing a draft, it was huge because for years I've been coaching youth rugby. And it's kind of the same old story when we get a very talented athlete coming through and playing rugby. The parents always push the athlete towards football or basketball if they have the opportunity, and which is completely understood. You want to get an education as well as be an athlete. So having the draft and showing players, hey, look, we are going to be looking at colleges. And that's where I believe rugby needs to continue to grow at the grassroots level. I mean, alongside U6, U8, U10, U12 programs like they have in New Zealand and the UK and France. College is the next target when we can start getting athletes the opportunities to get scholarships in college. I think it's gonna explode across America, as well as the league has done a fantastic job at getting some really quality sponsors to help grow the branding of the league.
What message do you want to send the rest of the league as to what the Legion will be bringing to the pitch this season? What kind of message?
With some players coming and going and, coaching staff being shuffled a bit, we're still going to be the same team. We've retained, again, a large core group of players. We're still the Legion. We're still, we're going to bring our best onto the field every single time. And, we're going to fight till the 80th minute.
Women's History Month, and no better time to talk about someone who's so important in your life than your wife, Jordan, who plays for Team USA. Tell me about your wife. Tell me how fierce she is and why she's so important to you.
So she plays for the USA women's sevens team and 15s team. She played in the 2017 World Cup in 15s in Ireland. She also played in the 2018 Sevens World Cup in San Francisco. And right now she's preparing to try to make the Olympic team that'll go to Tokyo. She's a huge inspiration to me. She's such a great teammate to all of her friends and teammates on the field. And she truly loves the game. And she's a competitor. We're not allowed to play. We can't go to like Dave and Buster's anymore and do like the free shot thing because it gets too heated. But no, she really does embody the rugby culture and mindset. Like when she's done training and she goes home after she watches the film, she doesn't want to talk about rugby at all. So I'm not allowed to talk rugby at home much, but no, she's awesome, and very thankful to have her in my life for sure.
What a powerhouse in the same home, under the same roof, you two. I can't imagine what any other competitions are like. I'm sure Monopoly gets heated as well. So I wouldn't want to be there with you guys playing against each other.
It does. Any board game.
I feel like MLR prides itself on diversity and inclusion and does such an incredible job in the communities. It's so beautiful. What makes you the most proud to play for Major League Rugby?
What makes me the most proud to play for Major League Rugby is being an American-born player. Growing up, my dream was always to play professional and international rugby. And when I was growing up, that only existed overseas. So in 2018, when this league came about, myself and other players had an opportunity to go overseas at that time because we were playing international rugby. To go overseas at that time, but the thought about being on the ground floor of American rugby and being a part of that growth is something that was, and it still is, very special to me. So I'm going to do everything that I can to help promote this team, to help promote this league, because the better ambassador that I can be for this league and this team, the more it's going to grow, the more people we're going to bring to rugby, and the more people we can show in America that this is the best sport that's out there. Not only as far as what we put onto the field, but the culture off the field. This is the sport that the American people deserve.
Dude, that's a crushing answer, just to let you know. As you guys have been getting together and getting ready for the season, what does your team look like? You know, where are guys lining up, and what can we expect to see from you all this season?
It's no secret in the players that we've signed. We've got some very good ball carriers in our forwards, and we've got some really fast backs. So trying to utilize a healthy mix of both, not put all the weight on the backs to the forwards, utilize a healthy mix of the both, and play some attacking rugby, move the ball around, and give the fans a good show, hopefully.
What do you think about when you are lining up with some of those guys that you mentioned, Chris Robshaw, Ma'a Nonu, and you're like, I grew up dreaming of something like this. You are already so well respected in the sport internationally and here at home, but you're lining up next to those guys. What goes through your head?
Part of me, like when Ma joined the team, I was like, oh my gosh, like man, I had a poster of this guy on my wall growing up. Like I had an All Blacks poster. He was right there. So for me, that was like, you know, surreal moment. And then check back in reality. It's like, hey, you know what? We're teammates. You know, I'm going to give everything I have, you know, on the field, and I'm going to take this opportunity to learn from him, and you know, also legitimizes me as a player being an American on this team with a lot of foreigners, you know. So it helps boost my confidence as well.
We're going to play for some bonus points here. These are lighter, one word, one sentence answers. And I did some digging, so I'm hoping that these resonate with you. And if they don't, then just go with it, all right? Who would play you in the movie about your life?
It's going to have to be Shia LaBeouf. We were actually having this conversation a couple weeks ago. me and a few of the boys over coffee. And I went with Shia LaBeouf because of the look-alike, the curly hair, and because he can be serious, but he can also be goofy, at some times. So I think he'd probably embody me the best.
I literally can't see you anymore. I only see Shia LaBeouf. So that's an incredible answer. What a great comp. Big fan. Okay. What about dinner with 3 other players who are in the league, not on your team?
I'm going to go with, wow. Gosh, I feel like if I say the wrong answer, someone's going to be mad at me, but I'm just going to have to shoot from the hip here. I'm going to go with Dylan Fawcett, aka the Butcher from Rooney, and then I'm going to go with Ben Sema, my old roommate from Seattle. Actually, they were both my old roommates at one point in time in my life, so I'll go with those 2.
Get the crew back together. I like that. You have played all over the world, coast to coast, no city unturned. What's your favorite city to play in and why?
New Zealand. I loved living in New Zealand. That was it's my favorite spot in the world. I love the food, the people, the culture. It's all just it's awesome. It's the way I feel like life should be. Favorite place ever played was Hong Kong Sevens 2014. The stadium was like something out of like when you have like dreams of playing in a stadium as a kid. It was that. It lived up to all the expectations.
What about a teammate's name that you had the most trouble pronouncing?
I've actually been fortunately enough, I've never had that problem really, but probably the most complicated name on the team would be Savinaka Toto Vasau.
Just like that, rolls right off the tongue. Okay, what about this? What about an NFL player that you'd like to see sport a rugby kit?
Frankie Louvu from the Jets. He's a linebacker. He came out and he was he came out and played some like touch rugby when we were down in San Diego over the past year. So I actually gave him some USA Rugby kit. I think he sported it at one point in time, but he may be making the switch over to rugby after he's done with football.
Are you breaking some news here on MLR Mic Check? Is that what's happening?
I'm trying to circulate some fake news to maybe potentially hopefully make it real.
I like that. I'll support that any day of the week. I think that would be awesome. What about a pregame meal? What are you stuffing your face with? Or post-game, what are you stuffing your face with?
Pre-game's usually about the same meal. It's always oats with peanut butter and banana, maybe a little bit of honey, chia seed, flaxseed, if we're going to be specific. Post-game, it's whatever I'm feeling because I'm quite tidy on my diet 95% of the time. So I try not to like fixate on some food after the game. Just when I'm done with the game, I just kind of see how I'm feeling. And if it's a sandwich, it's a salad, or it's pizza, whatever it is, I go off of how it feels.
So I do have to ask you then, what is the cheat meal? What's your go-to if you're like, today we're just going to forget everything, throw it out the window? I have to have what?
I'm such a go with the flow. If I'm with a group of people and, after the game and a bunch of guys are like, oh, talking about pizza, I'm like, if I'm into it, then I'm in, I do like pizza. It's so, but I like good pizza. Like I won't eat just like Domino's just because it's there kind of thing. Like if I'm in the mood for pizza, like I'm gonna do some research and find some like quality pizza.
That's the right answer. Please don't go eat whatever the nearest local chain is. Just do like 2 minutes of research, find the local place, and go buy from there, please. I appreciate that very much. I'm spoiled in New York with pizza, so I know it's difficult sometimes when you don't live there to get the good stuff. Who has the best hair on your team?
Got to be Chris Bowman. It's a mullet, and for those people who are not familiar with the mullet, it's not just a haircut; it's a lifestyle, and that's what Chris does. And obviously, again, the greatest part about the mullet is it's always got your back.
Dude, you're such a rock star, and I'm grateful that you were willing to be our first guest for MLR Mic Check. And I'm excited for your season. I'm excited that rugby is back and is growing, and that you are going to hopefully help lead your team back to that championship and take what's yours.
Thank you so much. Again, any opportunity that I have to help promote again this league, I'm going to take it. Thank you for the opportunity.